It's noon in Banjul, and from our studios, this is the news, but first the headlines. The Occupy Westfield movement enters into dialogue with government to resolve their demand for a protest against power outage in the greater Banjul area. School principals and top education administrators have met to discuss the future premise on providing free compulsory education for children. And do you remember the school garden and getting your hands muddy after lessons? That's the revival being inspired by the World Food Program to encourage student horticulture. Plus, in Zimbabwe, an ancient traditional practice of paying the bride price could be abolished if a legal challenge in the country's constitutional court succeeds. Well, these are other stories coming ahead in this half hour. I am Aissatou Keita. Well, thanks for joining us. The Occupy Westfield movement entered into dialogue with government and has called off its planned weekend demonstration. The youth movement announced this in a press statement following a meeting with Interior Minister Mai Ahmad Fati, along with the Minister of Energy, NAWEC executive, and the head of the National Security Council. The movement, in a news release, says it has decided to call off the demonstration and allow the dialogue to take precedence as they continue to reassess the security situation. Modu Bajan spoke with the coordinator of the Occupy Westfield movement about the decision to suspend the planned demonstration on Sunday. Take a listen.
We didn't call it off, we postponed it because we met with Mai Fati, the Minister of Interior, and the Minister of Energy, the Managing Director of NAWEC, the Head of Corporate Service at NAWEC, and National Security Advisor, and the Permanent Secretary of Interior. And we had a long conversation, and they have agreed to be in dialogue with us because they raised concerns, security concerns, and as citizens of this country, and we love this country, that's why we are doing this in the first place. We are protesting to say that NAWEC should do better, that the government needs to give them a backing, a political will, you know, so that was the main purpose of this. But when they raise concerns like that, and we said, okay, it's very simple, provide us with security, we want to be law-abiding, we don't want to do anything wrong, so they said they don't have the capacity right now. So they say, okay, we'll get a dialogue with you and listen to you and you listen to us. So we are postponing it because we're meeting them on Wednesday to finalize. So we intend to carry this out to say that we knew Gambia would only be possible when we have a lived democracy, not a democracy on paper, not a theoretical formulation of democracy, not just another aesthetic, you know, that we have, there's a conception, but we want to have a lived democracy. So we are doing this to say that the power belongs to the people, and the people will assert their will as per the laws of the land. If we were doing something illegal, we would have said, we're not going ahead with it. It would have never happened. It would have never even occurred to us.
Meanwhile, the National Youth Council, in collaboration with UNICEF, Saturday began a nationwide tour aimed at sensitizing children and youth on transitional justice. The tour began with a workshop in the North Bank town of Kerawan. The forum brought together students and youth from diverse areas within the region. SRSO reports.
The Ousted government of ex-President Yahya Jammeh has been accused of wholesale human rights violations over the last 2 decades. Human rights campaigners argue that enforced disappearances, torture, and summary executions have created a breakdown in families with intense fear and trauma for children that were directly or indirectly affected by these violations. The new government says it is committed to healing the deep wounds left behind by these atrocities through a transitional justice system that has a Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparation Commission at the heart of its activities. UNICEF, in collaboration with the National Youth Council, is embarking on this nationwide tour to ensure children are represented and actively taking part in the transitional justice system. Mariama Singate works with the Ministry of Justice.
Well, we do know that whatever happens in this country affects children, whether now or later. So the Ministry of Justice tend to draw in children to ensure that they have a voice in this process. Children need to participate in this process. They need to ask their questions, and they also need to know what is happening.
And we have heard about that there are many children who are also indirectly or directly victim of transitional justice system. So when the government is putting together this TRRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and we think that, I mean, in this process, children and youth's voice need to be heard, and their testimonies also need to be also taken. So that's why we want that the youth and children should be also, put together to their comments on this, and they should be also part of the process.
In August 2017, the Ministry of Justice launched national consultations to explain the rationale behind the transitional justice process and the TRRC. It was later observed that children have a significant role in the dispensation of such a justice system. These young people in the North Bank region are the latest to benefit from the workshops on transitional justice.
As a student, I have learned a lot of things. And I am so, as for my school, we do have workshop and we teach it to other students in the school. But for UNICEF, I am just thankful that they have bring up something that we the students and our teachers may learn more from it.
Yeah, it's been a very, very, very worthwhile day. I mean, the children were very free. There was no suppression. There was no pressure on any of them. They spoke out very well. They did what they contributed. They took part in the discussions freely, without fear or favor. They spoke their minds, and then they contributed immensely towards the success of the day.
Whereas the establishment of the TRRC is a critical part of peace building, reconciliation, and the consolidation of democracy, National Youth Council officials believe the development of an informed and committed national youth network is fundamental to the sustainability of the transitional justice process.
Some part of the society, that is the integral society, like children and youth, are left out. That's why we're embarking on this, whether we know it or not. In one way or the other, they are affected, or even their parents or family members are affected, and this have an impact on the children. So we feel it deemed necessary to bring them on board, to tell them they have rights and roles that they should play in this transitional justice process, to avoid what has happened in the past, so that we will not embark on that again.
In the framework of the UN intervention, UNICEF is planning to help the Gambia government and other stakeholders put in place the building blocks to establishing a child-sensitive transitional justice system. Authorities believe the process will significantly impact on children's recovery and ability to confront the future. SRSO, GRTS News.
The World Food Program has delivered garden materials to the Education Department, courtesy of the Japanese government. The presentation, which supports ongoing efforts by the Education Department to promote student farming, was presided over by the Minister of Agriculture. Senabu Jani reports.
The presentation of garden tools is designed to promote the Education Department's homegrown school feeding program aimed at teaching kids in school to grow their own food.
This is the third of its kind, where we receive materials that we take to our schools in the regions. I can recall of regions that they have erected almost 180 gardens with fence and tools, and I think that will really help with the project that is currently in hand.
Young people are being encouraged to take up gardening as an essential move towards food self-sufficiency. The supply of garden tools from Japan is expected to improve farming skills and consolidate school feeding programs. Up to 86 schools in the upper region will be benefiting from the garden tools, with an additional 66 schools lacking secure fencing targeted in the scheme to provide complete enclosures to promote and protect student gardens.
We are handing over to the Ministry of Education, to the government, garden materials to the school meal program in the Gambia. As we know, the daily school lunches provision with all these materials is indeed enhanced with not only with the materials but also with the training that is included in this support, and this way is contributing to for a comprehensive approach to addressing school children's hunger and malnutrition.
Adama Jimba Joe, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, underscored that the program will train 4,500 teachers in the next 3 years.
You may be aware that the school agriculture unit is encouraging all year-round gardening, which you will agree with me is a far-fetched dream without garden materials and secured fencing materials, which will prevent animal intrusion. We believe gardening in schools is a necessity. Thus, we encourage all schools to use gardening as a teaching tool.
The Minister of Agriculture, Omar Jallow, described the program as a great initiative that will help encourage boys and girls in schools to learn and engage in gardening, helping to inspire future agrarians.
I would like first and foremost to thank the WFP and all their partners, particularly the Japanese government, for producing the implements and equipments that are needed to promote school gardening. And I will emphasize, we should try to extend it to inculcate in the kids the ability and the interest to be self-sufficient in taking care of their own selves.
Coming at a time when the Education Department is promoting agriculture in schools, the garden materials will effectively help to encourage farming and, better still, instill agricultural values in school children. The presentation of garden tools is designed to promote the education.
The Minister of Agriculture has promised to revitalize the agriculture sector back to its former glory. The minister, who was on tour meeting communities across the Gambia, is assessing the level of farming and various projects under the Agriculture Department. The minister held meetings at the villages of Limambulu, Sutukung and Sololo. Famarakani filed in this report.
Minister Omar Jallow and delegation in Kuntaur Central River region at night, and villagers queued for this rousing welcome. He went round to the old groundnut depot. The place is not functional and few old tractors could be seen around. To change the course for his ministry, revitalizing key sectors that could encourage export can help boost the country's socio-economic development growth. Day 3 of the tour took the delegation to Janjambure, and there the agriculture minister was taken to a fish pond run by the Armitage School. An impressive production is a new phase of rural aquaculture, a crucial sector that the Ministry of Agriculture is trying to promote.
45 competent experts of agriculture were either dismissed or put in prison. That is why our regional directorates are non-operational. None of our institutions are operational. Now, we not only, a lot of them are now being integrated back in the system, but we have to also train again.
Finishing with most parts of the Central River region, the delegation continued a journey of 40 kilometers away from the town of Basse to Limbambul village, a beneficiary of the NEMA project, a thriving rice production scheme. The meetings took on similar lines. An open discussion between farmers and policymakers could make a lot of difference in the agriculture reform plans. In Limbambulu, farming is one activity that people are mainly engaged in, but villagers claim nearly 2 decades of executive boycott, which caused a massive underdevelopment. To set things straight for them, Minister Jallow and his different project heads promised to devise new plans to revitalize agriculture in rural communities. On day 4 of the tour, the delegation reached the Agriculture ICT Center in Sololo, one of the few provincial centers offering agri-extension and laboratory services in rural Gambia.
It is necessary for this government to know that research plays a very important role in agricultural development. And if we want agriculture to develop in this country, and not for us to depend on foreign people or foreign experts to help us, when we have some of the most qualified people in Gambia who can even teach those foreign experts, but because research is not fully funded for us to have the equipment, the labs, and etc., etc., I think then we are just paying lip service to agriculture.
For the past 22 years, agriculture suffered numerous setbacks, and officials are working with farmers to revive the important sector. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Famarakani.
Principals of upper and basic cycle schools are at the Regional Education Directorate in Region 2 Brikama for their annual general conference. The theme for this year's annual congress is free compulsory education for all children in the Gambia. Samuel Ba reports.
The two-day conference is being attended by principals and heads of schools from all regions in the country. The annual conference provides them with the opportunity to reflect on past engagements as a body and prepare for the future. Sajal Sane represented the regional director.
Looking at your program of activities, I am impressed with the items you have outlined to be discussed, and I hope if they are discussed, they will be discussed exhaustively, and whatever conclusions you may draw from this August gathering would definitely help you, particularly the young ones who are taking up headship.
The Conference of Principals of Upper and Basic Cycle Schools was set up in 1990 and has been involved in many programs, including advocacy issues within their realm. Conference Chairperson Mohamed Jabi reminded the Assembly of the continued drive to explore opportunities for school children.
We are not only here to discuss about our own issues, but the children that we are caring for in our schools. We have 94,300 plus children in the upper basic schools. Meaning, we may not be much here in number, but we have 94,000 children that every single day we can look at and have impact in their lives. So issues that will be discussed here, particularly our own one, particularly coming from the HR, coming or from SCAD, coming from other sectors, let's come together and discuss them and finish them.
Lamin Fatajo, the Human Resource Director at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, explained transactional matters that engages his department, the board and the secretariat over key undertakings like posting and the transfer of service within the education sector.
HR is not responsible for posting teachers to school. So teachers will come to say, I have a problem with my postings, and you as the director of HR should be able to do something about it. Once you are under a director, which is the regional director, is the regional director that is mandated to release you, to transfer you to another region, to even stop your salary, and to also release your salary.
Partners at the conference, such as the Gambia Teachers Union, said the theme resounded the tasks that school heads are entrusted with in their position as leaders in education.
You look at URL alone, you have over 4,000 children out of school. You look at CRR, you have over 6,000 children out of school. And then this is in contravention to the spirit of the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia, particularly Section 30, that talks about free, compulsory, and available education. So government, being the primary duty bearer, has a moral responsibility to ensure that education is accessible, it is affordable, and in quality shape.
Advocacy for strategic development and service efficiency are fundamental matters being increasingly highlighted and pushed to the fore by education authorities. Javi explains.
We want to have a campaign for compulsory basic education in this country because we think the time has come. With no reason of leaving Gambian children loitering under, we should speak on their behalf. In as much as speak from Mr. Fatajo, that our principals should be promoted, it's in a similar way. We should also stand strong and help Gambian children to get access to education.
The principals group has also donated $10,000 to the juvenile justice wing of the old Josuan prison. Samuel Bach, GRTS.
The Gambia government, through the Ministry of Interior, European Union Trust Fund and the International Organization for Migration, on Friday signed an agreement to implement an EU Trust Fund IMO joint initiative for migrant protection and reintegration. The €3.9 million scheme is a 3-year project funded by the EU Emergency Trust Fund for Africa, earmarked to support the integration of migrant returnees from North Africa and Europe. Semi Marina tells us more.
A significant number of Gambians living in the country often become stranded on migration route to North Africa and Europe, with no means to continue their journeys, but with little hope of reaching their intended destination. Many have decided to return home. This new project by the EU is intended to support 1,500 migrants returning to the Gambia to integrate into their communities of origin and contribute to the strengthening of government programs aimed at providing sustainable support, including specialized assistance for vulnerable migrants. Speaking to GRTS shortly after the signing ceremony, Mai Ahmad Fati, the Minister of Interior, whose office is monitoring the implementation process, underscored the importance of such a project, describing it as timely and relevant.
This is intended to support information dissemination, to support their mobility, from point of arrival to their families. It is intended to provide psychological counseling, because a lot of these people face abuses. They were also brutalized. They went through the horrors of the journey. They went through thirst and hunger. Some of them were trapped by militia along the way, by human traffickers. They were psychologically destabilized in so many ways. So the fund is also going to create that. But beyond that, it is also going to make temporary transit centers for them. That is, when they return either by land or sea or air, there would be a place where they could go and spend the night and reorient themselves again.
Attila Lajos is the EU ambassador to Gambia.
The initiative being launched today is funded from the Trust Fund, which, as you all know, was launched at the Valletta Summit for Migration back in November 2015, almost 2 years ago. The Trust Fund has been created due to the recent unprecedented levels of irregular migration from Africa towards Europe to support the most fragile and affected African countries. Last year, there were an estimated 5,143 dead or missing migrants in the Mediterranean.
The International Organization for Migration Banjul Office Bureau Chief Fomiga Nagano said the initiative is part of a larger 14-country regional program in West and Central Africa, as well as Libya, designed to contribute to strengthening of migration governance and to sustainable integration of returning migrants in the Gambia. Buba Sanya, the Director General of the Gambia Immigration Department, believes the new project will gradually reduce the number of young Gambians using the illegal migrant route to Europe.
Because as we speak, we have some certain information from the local community about the preparation of these young Gambians going out of the country. We are doing our efforts to stop them.
As part of the assistance scheme, the project also provides a cash grant to all returnees upon their arrival to the Gambia to cover their immediate needs, including onward transportation to their homes. Returnees' needs are subsequently assessed on a case-by-case basis to determine the type of integration assistance they would receive. Seni Marena for GRTS News.
Well, that story by Seni Marena takes us to our first break. International news follows. Do stay with us. Welcome back. It's been practiced since time immemorial. I am talking, of course, about bride price, or labola, as it's called in Zimbabwe. Well, this custom could be abolished if a legal challenge in the country's constitutional court succeeds. A Zimbabwean lawyer says bride price reduces women to mere property and wants it done away with. So, will men seeking to marry Zimbabwean women pay the bride price or not? Farai Makuchirua with more of that in this report.
Conservative Zimbabwean attempt to dispense with an age-old custom has sparked controversy. Bride price has been under scrutiny here.
People feel that lobola has lost its traditional significance. Some people are now commercializing lobola. What do I mean by that? People are now treating it as a business venture where they charge exorbitant fees and get a lot of money out of this cultural practice.
Perpetuating the commodification of women according to critics.
women get mistreated and treated like an object that was purchased.
For some, the charges are justified.
We all know it's expensive to raise a child. For her to just be married off without a bride price makes her seem like she has no value.
Traditionalists say lobola is as important today as it was in the past.
We build a relationship between two families, and it builds a very strong bond between those people.
We have to go back and stand with our cultural values, not aiding and either try to bring or to import certain cultures from different worlds and everything.
That's why there are calls for regulation as opposed to a ban.
We should just try and deal with the excesses that come with commercialization. See how best we can conscientize society to respect lobola as a traditional practice, that is meant to join two families and not as a business venture.
The heated debate is seen boosting child rights.
With this court challenge that has been brought to the Constitutional Court, we are thinking that it is going to bring to the fore again that same issue of children being raised up not as children but as assets that can be sold off at some point.
That may help curb early child marriages. Farai Mwakutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
From Zimbabwe, we move to Nigeria, where craftsmen are determined to conserve the art of the Grand Bubu. The Grand Bubu is a traditional long garment worn by many to signify wealth and status. But modern fashion trends seems to be threatening the very existence of this attire, which was a status symbol. As Sophia Adengo reports from Abuja, efforts to sustain the Grand Bubu are on.
Abdulaziz begins the process of customizing a centuries-old traditional garment in his workshop. Known as the Grand Bubu, or Babariga in the local Hausa language, this elaborate dress, typically worn by men, has become widespread in the West African region.
If you want to dress, you have to wear a Babariga. And let's assume you are from other part, maybe from outside country, you want to be given title. Mostly they will give you Babariga before they give you turban. So it's the most it's the highest dress in Nigeria.
Historians say the style originates from Arab culture and dates back to the 13th century. The garment is decorated with intricate embroidery and consists of a pair of tie-up trousers, a long-sleeved shirt, and an open-stitch sleeveless gown worn on top and often made from cotton or silk. These gowns are usually used for special occasions like wedding parties and Islamic prayer ceremonies. Each piece takes about a month to design. A modern, reformed version of the Grand Bubu has been made popular by young people and can be seen on women. Many say the garment is central to Nigerian identity.
We like to have big, colorful, overstated stuff that makes people realize, hey, I'm here. Hi, notice me. So I think it's part of that. It's just a physical representation of our mindset, of the quality we do bring. Sometimes it can be too much, I will accept.
But these intricate, multicolored robes continue to be a fixture in Nigerian way of life and are often passed on as family heirlooms and gifts for friends.
Nigeria is one of Africa's most populous nations with a massive consumer market for imported modern clothes. But designers say there's still room to preserve homemade traditional culture, one stitch at a time. Sophia Dengo for CGTN, Abuja, Nigeria.
And that brings us to the end of the news, but before that, a look at the main stories once again. The Occupy Westfield movement enters into dialogue with government to resolve their demand for a protest against power outage in the Greater Banjul area. School principals and top education executives have met to discuss the future premise on providing free compulsory education for children. And do you remember the school garden and getting your hands muddy after lessons? That's the revival being inspired by the World Food Programme to encourage student horticulture. Plus, in Zimbabwe, an ancient traditional practice of paying the bride price could be abolished if a legal challenge in the country's constitutional court succeeds. Well, that was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company, and do join us again at 8 p.m. for another bulletin with Fatmata Sise. Until then, I am Aissatou Keita, and goodbye for now.